So yeah, so welcome back everyone. Good morning. So I hope you all have at least tried to do it. So if you can do this test case, I think you can do any automation of rest assured. So this is the maximum someone can give it to you. So we have covered schema validations, sessions, building pojos, all the stuff almost involved in this. So yeah, we'll come to this assignment a little later point of time. Maybe let's try to do something before that. So whatever the code that we have written, right? So we have written this piece of code, init reports, calling this init reports, tear down reports, all in the base test. I feel this making our code very tightly coupled to our extend reports. So if you notice, suppose tomorrow I want to remove the extend reports, okay, I cannot come here and then remove it, right? I can do it, but still I don't want to touch my base test, okay? I don't want to touch an existing code, okay? That's how I want to see it. And moreover, I believe in building only stuff that is related to test case here, okay? And this is related to test case, but it's more related to reports, right? So I hope if we can separate this from the test layer, it will be much better. Again, it's not very harm to keep it here. I feel maybe it can be moved to a different place, and that's when I think about listeners. Okay, TestNG comes with a lot of listeners. Let's try to create a class inside the package called as listeners. Okay, and then I can name it as test listener. Okay, in IntelliJ you don't have to create it separately. If you give the name in small letters, it'll assume that it is a package, and then it will create a class called test listener. Okay, so I'm not creating a package and then creating a class. I'm creating all at once. Okay, I'm creating a package listeners. Inside that, I'm creating a test listener class. Okay, so if you notice, it has created it. Now in the test listener, so what I want to do, I want to implement certain listeners already available in TestNG. So I test listener, okay, and then I suite listener. Okay, if you don't see this option, maybe you need to go to the pom.xml. Okay, you need to go to the pom.xml, and then okay, you can open the pom.xml, and here the testng, there will be a scope called test. You have to remove it. Okay, which means this testng related classes can be accessed only inside the src main java. So so you have to remove it. Okay, so once you do that, you can able to access it here. Okay, I'll close all other tabs for yeah. Now now if you notice previously, before TestNG version 7.0, all the methods, okay, 7.0, that is from version 6.14.3, until that, you have all the abstract methods inside the itest listener. Okay, these are all abstract methods, but the TestNG version that I'm using is greater than 7. So all these methods have become default. Okay, which means I hope you all know what is Java 8, what Java 8 brings. One of the features in Java 8, you can have a default methods in interfaces, so that you don't have to provide implementation. Okay, so it won't force you to provide implementation. If you want, you can still provide the implementation by overriding it. Okay, so let's I want to provide our own implementation, so let's me copy the three important things. Okay, I don't want all of them, because previously we have to import all of these, but most of the time the skipping and other stuff we normally not use. On test start, on test success, on test failure. Yeah, all these three things I'll copy it. Again, you can't have it as a default. Okay, let me name it as public, and okay, here also I'll make it as a public one, and also make it as a public. Again, I don't want to see this Java docs for now. If you want, you can create them all by yourself. Okay, now again, I can tell people who want to read this. I know as a developer, I created this class, so I know I'm overriding from my test listener. But someone who is coming new to the project may not know about it, so I can add one annotation so that they also can understand this is coming from a super class, okay, or an interface. Okay, so you can add it here. Okay, it doesn't gonna make a difference even if you don't add, but it's for people who read your code after 1 or 2 years. Okay, they may understand your this is not a method that you have created. You're overriding some method from any of these two classes. Okay, now we have created this. Now we also want before suite and after suite. For that, we'll go inside it, and this is a method that are available. Just copy it and come back, and let's also create that here. The same way, you can change this to public, and this is also public. Okay, and I don't want the Java docs for now. Let's remove it. Same way, can add override annotations. Now let's go to the base test. We have something called as setup suite, right? This is before suite. For to behave like a before suite, we have something called as on start. So this is like your before suite. So I can move that code here. Then we have tear down suite. Okay, after executing all the things, we want to call flush method. So we'll cut it and then we'll put it. So this one is behave like your after suite. Okay, next one. So this is before method, right? It will execute before each of the test method. So I'll copy this, or actually cut it, and then move to on test start. Okay, before each test getting started, I want to call this here. The variable name is result. I can use the result.get name to get the name of the test. Okay, now in the previous case, we write some if conditions to check whether the test case is a pass or fail, but here we don't have to do it. They have separated them into different methods. So this method will be called on test success. This method will be called on whenever the test is getting failed. So what I can do, I can add my own logic here. So here actually I am doing this, right? So let's cut it, and we also don't need this anymore. Let's go there. Okay, I want to log. If there is a failure, I want to log the failure. And if there is success, I also want to tell extend logger dot pass. I want to tell result dot get name is basically success. Okay, is passed or something like this. Okay, maybe I'll give a space here. Okay, something like this. And whenever it is getting failed, I have done some customization here in the using the markup helper. Suppose normally if it is getting failed, okay, it will not highlight it. But what I want to do, instead of just having like this, okay, instead of just reporting like this the failure, okay, I'm just adding one markup helper. Okay, which means it will create a label in red color, so that I'm highlighting in the report. If there is a failure, highlight that in red color. Okay, this is just a simple label creation. Okay, not big deal. If you are not convenient to use this, you can ignore it. Where I learned this, you can go to the extendreports.com. Okay, and then you can find it there. Okay, so my internet is taking a lot of time maybe. So let's see about remaining things. So now if you notice, there is no need for all these things. Okay, these are all basically empty methods, so I can remove them. And these are all empty imports, so I can do control shift and O. For now I don't need a base test, so let it be there. If you don't use it for anything, we can remove it. Okay, but for now let it keep it there. Let it not do anything for now, and all the things will be done by the listener. Now we have added a new listener, but we have to tell TestNG, hey, now I have created a listener. You need to start telling whatever, whenever a test is getting passed, you need to inform this. Whenever a suite is getting started, you need to call this method. So how we can tell this? Okay, if you can go to the testng.xml, and then between the suite and the listeners, you have to add this particular thing. Okay, you need to add a listener tag, and then you need to tell the listener class name. Suppose this is located in com.tnb.listener.testListener. You have to give the full path. Okay, once you give this, TestNG now understand that it has to listen to your listener. Okay, so whenever a test is getting passed or failed, it will be called. Okay, now let's try to run the test. Now we have moved the code from base test to the listener, and let's try to run the test and see what's happening. We have voluntarily failed some test case, I remember, but let's see what's happening. So we have voluntarily failed some test case. Let's go to the index.html and open it. So if you notice, we have failed it, but this time it is highlighting in red color. This is because of the markup helper that we have added. Okay, so apart from that, all other things are working absolutely fine. Correct. So there is no change that is needed. Everything is working fine. So whenever there is a failure, I want to log the throwable message, and I also want to highlight in red color. Okay, this is just, again, if you don't want, you can ignore it. Okay, so yeah, this is how we can move your code. Suppose tomorrow, if there is a requirement, you don't want this. Okay, just you can go to the testng.xml, and then remove the listener. Okay, you just remove the listener, nothing untouched. Okay, everything will work without a report. Okay, now you can easily couple and decouple a report by adding a listener tag. This is the power. Okay, I'm not going and touching my base test at all. So that's the power of using listeners in test engine. Good. Now what else we can do, right? Extend reports comes with a lot of benefits. Okay, so you have the capability to add your author names and all to it. Okay, so suppose you want to mention who has created which particular test case. Suppose let's say get test, it was created by Amgan. I want to log that information to that. So then what you can do, you can tell extend manager dot. So I couldn't find that, so let's go there and try to make this as a public for now for certain period of time so that I can explain you guys. Okay, okay, get test dot, there is assign author. Okay, where you can tell who has created this. So for now I'm telling Amodan has created this, and this particular test case belongs to a category of let's say smoke category. Okay, smoke test categories. Okay, so once you do this, if I run my test, this will add a author name to this particular get employee details test. Okay, let's try to run the test engine.xml again. Okay, now let me open the index.html. Okay, if you notice, the get employee details alone is telling Amudan and smoke, and there is a new tag here which is telling there is a smoke test. One test is belonging to smoke category, and that is passed. And otherwise, there is a guy called Amudan who created one test. That test got passed. Okay, even in the dashboard, you could see who has created. So if there are multiple authors, it will give you a table. So Amudan, Sachin, Dravid, whoever is created, how many tests they have created, how many of them got passed, how many of them got failed, what is their pass percentage, all those things it will tell. Okay, you can also group them based on the functionality. So it is a login test case, or some some add to cart test, whatever, so that those gives you real information about which functionality or module is causing more problems. Okay, so you can leverage this as well. But if you notice, this particular thing, adding this inside a test case can be done. Okay, you can add this particular piece of information inside a test case, but as I already told, as yes did or we cannot do this. Maybe automation engineer who is just starting their career, okay, they can add this code inside this, but as an SDET or people with experience don't do it. We have better ways to do it. Okay, how we can do it? We can leverage something called as annotations. Okay, and people who have watched my Selenium automation playlist, I have already explained this how to do it. So let's quickly cover this and do it. So numbers, if you notice, this art test is basically an annotation coming from test engine. Okay, you have the option to define priority. Okay, you want to tell the priority. Okay, and then if you want to give some description, you can also give that. Okay, you can give some description to it. Okay, all these things, but who is defining this? Okay, suppose if I change this to string, okay, it is not working. What it is telling, incompatible types. Okay, found string, but it's required int. Okay, the same way, if I make it as a int, the description, what it is telling, hey, found int, but I want string. Okay, so basically, there is someone who defined the rules and where they have refined the rules. Okay, for that you have to go inside the test annotations. Okay, so annotations again, guys. I don't know how many of you know about annotations. How many of you know about annotations? How it works? I know SK know about it because he watched all my YouTube playlist. Anyone else? Guys, any doubts? I want some answers. Do you know about annotations or not? This is to make sure that what is the pace that I have to go through this topic. If you guys don't know about it, I'll go a little slow. If you guys know about it, I go a little fast. That's the reason.
No, Muthan, no. I know basic about like test engine annotation, at the rate test, and those things which we use.
Okay, no problem, guys. So it's very important. There is something I feel that is very important in IT is we need to realize what we don't know, and we need to gracefully accept it. If I don't know something, I gracefully accept it, and I'll do some efforts to learn it. So that's a very good attribute to be in an IT. Okay, so good. So now since you guys told you don't know about it, so let's go step by step. Okay, this test annotation we have been using for a very long time. We have also used at the rate before method, at the rate before test, all these things, right? But what are those? Have you spent some have you think about it? Good. So if you notice, we have something called as priority. Okay, this priority is here. If you notice, the default is 0. What is that? What does it means? Okay, it's look confusing, right? But most of the things are something that you have already see. Invocation timeout, invocation count. Okay, default is 1. So what are these things? Okay, and there is annotation on top of an annotation. Test is an annotation. Okay, we know test at the rate test is an annotation, but on top of it there is two annotations. What are these things? Okay, it's a little confusing. Okay, let's break it down. Good. An annotation in Java is almost like a separate entity. It's not a class, it's not an interface, it's not an anything else. Okay, it's a different thing. Okay, but it behaves more like an interface. Okay, that's why it is denoted like public interface test, and then the at the rate indicates that it is an annotation. Okay, and now inside that you see something like a method. Suppose, imagine you have a groups method, and then it is returning a string array. How will you define it? You will define a string array groups, right? So let's go here. Suppose you have a method that is returning int. What do? You tell public int. Okay, suppose let's name this method as priority. Okay, let's assume this is an abstract method. Okay, I'm not interested in access modifier for now. Imagine this is int priority, right? This is how we define a method, that it is returning an integer value. The same way, if you go to the test, okay, int priority, it is almost same like this, int priority. Okay, good. Now, why they have added default 0? It means by default it will return 0, something like that, you can assume. Okay, which means whenever you are adding priority, okay, by default it will be 0. You can change that to 1 or 2 or 3 based on your requirements. Okay, if the default value here makes this particular parameter as not a mandatory one. So if you are using at the rate test, it is not mandatory for you to define a priority, because by default it will assign some value to it. The same way, there are a lot of parameters inside this, all are having some default values. Okay, single threaded test name. So if you don't give a test name, by default it will assume it is a empty string. If you don't give a sweet name, it will by default it will assume it's an empty string. Okay, the same way, the accepted exceptions, descriptions, data provider class. If you don't provide a data provider, it assumes is a object dot class. Okay, so by default it's always has some default value. So there is no need for you to define any parameters when you are using at the rate test. Okay, good. But what kind of things? So we have seen int. Okay, we also seen there is a string. We can also see boolean here. There is class here, string here, class array here. What are all the things that you can store? Okay, if I open a notepad, okay, annotation is basically a separate entity, guys. Okay, um, it behaves more like an interface, but it's not an interface. Again, one important rule is annotation cannot extend another one. Annotation cannot extend another one. Extend another. Okay, and it can hold primitive types, all the primitive types, int, boolean, integer, whatever, int, long, double, all the primitive types. Then it can store string. Then it can also store string array. It can also store class. It can also store class array. It can also store enum, and it can also store enum array. So some stuff like this. Okay, but for now we'll only focus on these three things. Okay, maybe I have also explained about enum array in my cell name automation framework playlist, where you can go and see about it. But for now we'll do this. Okay, but I have a requirement. My requirement is to assign this author value and category. I don't want to put it here. Okay, somewhere I want to annotate on top of it, so that these things can be used there. Okay, I don't want to put this value here. Okay, that's the use case. Now we are going to create our own annotation so that you can understand it better. Okay, let's go and create a new package first. Maybe I'll name it as annotations, and I'll go and create a new class. So here, if you notice, there is an annotation option, and you can name it as my annotation or framework annotation, whatever you feel comfortable. Maybe framework annotation is more professional. Let's create a framework annotation. Okay, if you guys notice, it has actually given us this. Now let's go to that test, and then if you see on top of it, they have assigned two things. What are those things? Okay, guys, there are these are all again annotations coming from Java that basically indicates where you can add this. Okay, the @test you can add on top of a method or a tab type, which means if you go here, you can add the @test on top of it, or a method on top of a class. Okay, here also you can add @test. If you add it on top of a variable, you cannot do it. Okay, so that's when you define where you can add this annotation. Okay, so in our case also, we want to add this let's go to the test. Let's copy this. Okay, and let's place it here. And I don't want to add it on top of a class file. I just want to give only on top of method. Okay, good. Now this is done. Now the second one. So there is one thing called as retention policy. Let's go here and then add it this one. So there are three retention type policies. Okay, one is source, class, and runtime. These two, if you give, we may not be able to access those values at the runtime. So always give runtime so that you can access the annotation values using reflections at the runtime. So if you don't understand this, that's okay. Just make sure that you give a runtime here. Okay, now we have created our own annotation. Now let's go and add this annotation on top of it. Okay, on top of your stuff, you can add framework annotation. Good. Now I want to store some values into this. Here they are storing priority, right? All those things they are storing, right? Same way I want to store author value and category here. Okay, for that I need to introduce new one. So as I already told, I want to store a string value, and let's name it as author method. Okay, that's it. Now I haven't given any default values. So if I go to the get test, it is asking me give the default values. Okay, add missing annotation parameter author. So it is mandatory for you to provide an author name for each test case. Okay, but if you don't want that to be mandatory, you can also give your default values. Okay, let's assume in this project there is one guy called Amudan who will be the default guy. So now if you do it, when you add a framework annotation, it will not force you to add an author, because by default it assumes that Amudan is the author for this particular test case. But sometimes there may be people cases where multiple people can work on a test case, two people. Okay, in those cases, how can I do this? Okay, the time instead of string, you return a string array. Okay, and then by default you are returning that's okay. But yeah, you can also override that. And now I can tell author equal to, okay, put a square brackets, and this is developed by Amudan and then Sachin. Okay, so there are two guys who developed this particular test. The same way I want to assign category to this. So let me introduce a new category. So this one I can name it as category, and by default all of them will be belonging to regression tests. Otherwise you can override them, and you can mention your stuff here. Okay, comma category equal to smoke. Okay, now we don't have to give it here. Then where I can give this value? I need some way to get this value and pass it to the extend reports, right? Maybe I'll do Control Z. See, I need to call assign author, and then this I need to pass these two values, and then I need to call assign category, and then I need to pass this value. How can I do this? Okay, again, maybe I can also assume that it has multiple values. Let's say smoke, and then it is part of a get test, right? So get calls, something like this. Okay, I want to call this, but I cannot call this here. Okay, I cannot call and say the test method. So let's go to the listeners. That's the place where you can use reflections to get it. Now, while each test case starting, I also want to find the author and uh, category, and then I need to call that extend report method. Report method. Okay, maybe I'll create that there. Okay, maybe I'll create a method here. Maybe public static void add author. If someone is calling this method, let them pass me a string array of authors. Okay, let them pass me authors. What I do, I iterate one by one, and then I'll call extend manager dot get test dot assign author. See, this assign author is accepting only string. Okay, so I have to iterate this. Okay, maybe I'll introduce a for each. I iterate temp authors. Okay, and then for each of the authors that is coming, okay, I need to assign them here. I need to add temp, or maybe it's better to name it as author, so I can name this as author instead of temp. Okay, so this is the same way. I can copy this, paste it. Okay, add category to external report. If someone is finding categories, and this is category, this is categories, and I want to assign category. Yeah, so this is two methods. I just need to call these two methods and pass those values. Okay, now let's go to the listener back, and now if you notice result, I need reflections. Okay, if you want reflections, okay, I cannot inject a reflection here. Okay, because I cannot inject the reflection here. Okay, this is not possible because this method is getting overridden. Okay, I cannot do it. So I have to some way find the reflection using this result. Okay, this is a variable that is coming from my test results. I have only that option. Okay, result dot, so get method. Okay, this method will give me itestng method dot get constructor or method. Okay, if you notice, this is giving me constructor or method. I am interested in the method, so get method. So if you notice, this is the method, this is the reflection what I am speaking about. Okay, this method I want to get annotation. Okay, what is the annotation you want to get? I want to get framework annotation dot class. Okay, I want to get the framework annotation dot class. In that, what you want to get? I want to get the category or author, whatever. So I want to get all the authors. Okay, now I'll introduce a new variable. This is authors, right? Basically, once you get all the authors, I just need to call extend report dot add author, and I need to pass this array, string array. It will take care of the job. The same way, you can do it for the category. So result dot get method, get constructor or method, get method. Okay, there is no direct way to do the reflections, so we have to call these many methods, but these are all one-time efforts, guys. There is no problem in it. So annotation, framework annotation dot class. Okay, in that I want to get all the categories. You may also add new parameters if you want to pass any more things. Okay, once you do this, introduce a new local variable. Okay, and then extend report dot add categories, whatever things that we have generated. Again, instead of creating a new local variable, you can directly pass this whole thing here inside this. But it's okay if you are not able to read it. It's okay to create a local variable because it will be removed once the method call is over. Okay, so there is no, it is still, it can manage the memory efficiently. Okay, once this method call is over, this local variables will be removed from the thread stack, so it is still, you know, managing your memory better way. Okay, don't worry about creating a local variable all the way. Okay, as long as, you know, we could able to read and understand the code, that is very important. Okay, I can put all these things inside this. Okay, but that makes my code really not readable, and then I need to write some comments. Okay, basically I'm using reflections to get the author names from the annotations and passing on to this add author method. Okay, instead of writing a command like this, please write a code. Okay, see, none of the places I have written any comments. Okay, my code should be very simple and readable and understandable. Okay, that's my stuff. Good. Now let's try to run the test and then see whether this is still okay. Okay, let's try to run the test on xml. Okay, there is some failure here. What is the failure? Okay, on test start there is null pointer exception, something like this. Okay, 26th line, yes, this is the place. Why this is null? Okay, test is ignored. Okay, yeah, so we have added this annotation only on top of this, right? For others it is actually throwing null. So let's see what is the report shows. Okay, we will add to all the methods, so that's not a big deal. Let's first go here, open the reports. For this report, again we are seeing Sachin, Amudan, get call and smoke. This is what we have added, so we might need to add it to all the tests. Okay, so let's go and do it, and let's go to the test case. Okay, we'll copy this, paste it here, and like you can change some values. Okay, this is only created by this guy, and this is part of some regression. Okay, something like that. Okay, this is done in the post test. Again, I can add it. So this is only developed by Sachin, and this is part of post call. Okay. Same way you can add it. Okay, whatever.
Muthan, as we have not passed the default values in annotation, that's why we need to provide this thing, right?
Oh no, we have given some default values, but it is not picking it because we are trying to pick the author. It should actually we are not even giving the annotations. Okay, so let's say if you give the annotation, okay, I'm not giving, so let's say let's go to the post test. I have given the annotation, but I have not given values. This time it can go and pick this default values. Okay, correct.
Yes.
But in previous case, what we did is we only added on top of only one test method. Only we only added annotation, this framework annotation itself on top of this. On other methods, I didn't even added that. Okay, so it doesn't know what is a framework annotation. So when we make a call, I want to get the framework annotation. Okay, I want to get an annotation, framework annotation for a post method for which I didn't add the annotation itself. So it is throwing null. That's the reason these tests have failed. At least you need to add the framework annotation on top of it. Even if you don't give the values, it will take the default values from here. For example, we haven't given the values for post request using external file this time. Let's see whether it is taking the default values. Okay, maybe I will go and change the default values to default author and default category, so that we can see the difference very clearly. Okay, let's try to run the test. Okay, now if I go and do the refresh of here, this reports, if you notice Sachin, Amudan, get call, post, all these things, post request using external file. um, let's say, let's go here. See, if you notice there is a default author, and this author is post request using external file one. Okay, you can go and check This is created by default author and default category. Okay, if you don't give a value to it, it will pick the default ones. Okay, it's not like you can only fetch the values of framework annotation class. The same way you can fetch the values of test class. Okay, suppose if you are giving some description over it. Okay, suppose for the test I have given some description equal to uh, uh, get call test to check whether whatever some vague description you are giving. You want to get this description at the runtime. Okay, you can also use reflections. Okay, I have already told how to do this. So the same thing. Okay, the code remains the same. So you just need to use this control is it control copy, and let's say minimize this. Okay, so here instead of this framework annotation dot class, you need to mention test dot class. In the test dot class, okay, this, okay, I want to basically get the description value, right? Description value. Okay, now you can get the description value. This will be a string. Okay, so you can use this description to do anything. Okay, so maybe while creating the result dot get name, we are creating a test case based on this, right? Instead of that, you can give the description, okay, on top of a test method, and then pass the description, okay, while calling the create test. Okay, while calling the create test, okay, if you go cut it, okay, put it here, this description, okay, you can pass it here, so that it creates a test based on your description, not on your test name. Okay, anything is possible with the reflections is very powerful. You can learn about it later, but for now let's go back to the basics. We don't need this. We'll keep it like that. Okay, good. So that's all about how we can leverage all these annotations into our extent reports, and we can also create a beautiful extent reports at the end. But there is one small thing that is pending, that we haven't added our request parameters to the report. That is missing, right? We are only adding the response. What about the request? Okay, if you notice, we are only passing the response. What about the request? So how will you do this? Okay, there is no direct way to do it. Okay, even I have checked with the rest assured people. For if you are using Allure reports, they have a plugin which can do the job for us. But if you are using extend reports, there is no direct way you can do it. Maybe you have to tweak it a little bit to cater your needs. Okay, what kind of tweaking we have to do? Okay, for that, let's take some go to some post test. Okay, we are using request builder, we are building our request, all those things are good. Okay, we are logging all the, so if I go to this particular method, we are logging, we are doing base, all those things are good. But there is one thing that we have to do. Okay, before calling this post method, okay, before calling this post method, okay, maybe you create that request specification. Okay, I'll end it here. I'll do a request specification. Okay, there is no direct way to do it, guys. Okay, request specification, something like this, and then while posting, you can just post it like this. Okay, good. So request specification is an interface. It's an interface. So all you were given, the log, all of those things will return you request specification reference. Okay, this request specification is an interface. Okay, if you go to that interface, that's when they have given body, cookie, all the abstract methods will be here. All of them will return you request specification. That's the reason you can chain those methods. Okay, you can chain given dot log dot all dot this you can chain, because they all returning the stuff. Okay, headers dot everything you are doing, right? All these are basically your abstract methods defined in this interface. If you want to know the implementation, where they have provided the implementation, there is one class called as request specification impl request specification implementation. Okay, this is the class where they have stored all the okay, if you notice, this is actually implementing your filterable request specification, and this filterable request specification will internally extend the request specification interface. Okay, so if you go inside this is actually request specification. This is actually extending your request specification interface. Okay, so all the implementation is basically provided here. Okay, so if you go to this particular class, all the specification, this when, given, then, that, all those things are, I told you, right? It's all sugar codes. They don't return you anything apart from returning the same class. Okay, this is for more readability. Okay, so the get is basically doing some operations, all those implementation they are providing here. Okay, so I can go through over it, and then can understand all these things. Okay, but for now let's close all these things. Okay, for now our intention is to log the request details into the report. Okay, how will you do this? This is our question. For that, we are going to do only one small change. That is, before calling this post or get or whatever the method, okay, create a reference of request specification. Once you do that, there is something called a specification courier. Okay, this class is having query method where it will ask you for the request specification. Okay, pass this. Once you pass this, okay, it will bring you back query, which means this is a interface where reference, okay, that helps you to query all the details about the request. Okay, I want to query all the details about the request. For that, I am passing like this. Okay, now if you type query dot, that's it, it will give you all the details about the uh, uh, request. Suppose I want to get the body of the request, then you can use get body. Okay, suppose you want to get query, so basically query dot get headers. You want, what are the headers you passed, you want to get it. So you can get all this information with the help of this. There is no direct way to get a request details directly. Okay, so we have to tweak it a little bit. Previously I used to divert all the logs that is printing in the console to a writer output stream and then to reports, but that is deprecated now. You cannot do it anymore. So the only thing is you have to use this. Okay, for now what we do, we will create it as a reusable method, so that we don't have to worry about it too much. Okay, so instead of us doing all the things, what I can do, let's cut this, and let's also introduce a new local variable here. So okay, so before making your get call or post call or put call or delete call, just store this request specification, and then maybe you can call some external logger. So I'll go here, maybe I'll pass log public static void log request. Okay, and here you just paste this code. Okay, so if someone sends me a request specification, then using that I can get all the information I want, and then I can log it. Okay, so if you want to log this body information, what you can do, you can just tell extend manage. Okay, or you can just tell info of this particular guy. Okay, body details I'm passing into the port. Or before that I can tell info request details below, something like this. May not be an effective approach, but for now they have only plugins for Allure. They don't have for rest assured. I am speaking with the team. Let's see what they are doing about it. Okay, good. And then for headers also, header details also, I want to log it, so I can also use to log like this. Okay, so this one is basically return you the, not this headers is not directly coming. So what I can do, this is actually returning me headers. Either I have to iterate it, get the detail one by one and log it. So what I can do, for query dot get headers, this basically gives you the headers, right? And string, so this is header type, header. Okay, I iterate one among them, and then I'll do info. I'll call the info, and then header dot get name. Dot get value. Okay, I can I can log this information like this. Okay. Now in my post test, what I have to do, I have to just call this extend logger dot log request, and then pass the request specification, whatever we have together. Okay. So now we are only focusing on this post request using external file one. Okay. Let's see whether we could be able to see the details. Okay. This is actually getting the information as string and doing it. Okay. Let's see it. Let's try to run it and then see if there is any issues. Guys, you guys are getting right what I'm telling. If you have any doubts, always stop me. I don't mind people interrupting my lecture. So yeah, let's go here and then external file one. If you notice, request details below, it's actually passing the body, but it's not in a good format. And then it is also logging the header details. That is also good. But if you notice, this is not a good way to readable. It's not readable, right? We need to convert this like this in this format. Okay, let's take an advantage. Let's go to the external logger again. We'll use some you know, for response we used this markup helper, right? The same way we copy this. Okay, for logging the body, okay, you just tell extend logger dot sorry, extend manage get test dot info. Either I have to overload the method or I have to do like this. Okay, so what I can do in the markup helper, the message is basically your query dot get body. Okay, whatever the body that I have, I want to mark sell the languages JSON. Okay, let's see how it is displaying now. Let's go and go to the external file one. If you notice now, this time the request is marked in a good way. Okay, so this is how you can tweak your request details to be logged in the report. Okay, most of the time we will be only interested in the request body, and then at that time it will be coming handy. Okay, if you're not interested in headers also, you can remove this logging. Okay, any doubts in this? I see any doubts?
No, Muthan.
Okay, good. So then what else we have? We are almost on time. Maybe you can go ahead and then do the changes to all the post methods. Okay, before making the post call, let me do for one more thing. Okay, before making the post call, create it as a request specification type. Okay, maybe I'll change it myself. Request specification. Okay, before making this call, you can use request specification. Can introduce a new variable here like response, so that it won't miss any miss. And to log the information, you use external logger dot log request and pass the request specification. That's it. Okay, it will do the querying and then it will log the information about it. Okay, so this way you can log your request details also um, into the extend reports. Okay, this is how we have done it here, and we can also extend this here as well. Okay, so okay, I can basically introduce look. Okay, control A, control I for the alignment. And for this, I can introduce a new local variable called as response. Okay. Same way for get test, I think we don't need to log the get is just basically a get call, right? There is no body involved, so you can ignore that call. Okay, so you can only log the response. Okay, so this is how we can do it. Okay, maybe we have 10 minutes of time. What we can do, we can do that assignment test. Okay, Let's create a new class. For now, let's name it as assignment test. Okay, and I'll create a test method here. Okay, and name it as assignment test, whatever. This is assignment. Let's name it as little differently. Assignment test. Okay, good. So now, what is telling? Okay, I have renamed here. So let's wait. Okay, now, so this is the assignment. Let's take the assignment.txt file. So we need to make a get call to this and then get the size of the array. Okay. And then we need to post call. Okay, let's do step by step. Let's go to the test and request builder is what we have used. So request builder dot, okay, a build request for get calls. I want to make a get call, and what else I want to do? I want to make a get call to this particular endpoint. That is base URI is already set, so I can just tell employees here, employees, and once it is done, what I have to do, I have to basically assert that. So then I can export this as a response. Okay, and response dot, okay, uh, so JSON path. Okay, I want to get the size of that array, so get list. Okay, I want to get it as a list, and the root node. Okay, the response will be an array, so in the root node I want to get it as a list, and I want to get the size of it. Once I get the size, I want to compare, I want to get the size and store it. Okay, maybe I'll store it in a new variable, let's say int size. Okay, once I do the size, I want to make a next one, get the size, it store it in some variable, make a post call using Lombok or builder. Okay, make a post call. Okay, we already have that. Let's go to the assignment test. So again, maybe I'll do the static input of this. Add demand static input so that I can do build post calls. I want to make a post call now, and uh, before making the post call, I actually want, okay, it is basically URI log all. Okay, and then content type.json is also set, so I can directly tell make a post call. But before making a post call, I want to log the information, right? So I can introduce a new request specification and external logger dot log request. I want to log the request, that is request specification. Once I log the request details into the report, I can basically make a call, and this time I can tell request specification dot post. I want to make a post call to the employee endpoint slash employee endpoint, and once this is done, I want to introduce a maybe this is my post response. Okay, once I get the post response, what I want to do, I want to get the size again. Okay, what I want to do, just a minute, make the post call. Okay, he's telling make the post call using Pojo, but we didn't pass the body itself. Let's pass the body. Assignment test. Okay, maybe I have to do dot body here. Okay, let's construct the employee. So that is employee dot builder dot set first name. Maybe I'll use the random utils get first name. I'll do the static import of this, get first name, and then dot set last name, get last name. Okay, and then set id, get id. So once you do this, you need to call the build method. Okay, and then I'll introduce a new local variable. This is the employee that basically I want to post. Okay, I want to actually do body and then pass this employee, and this is the request specification. Then I'll make a post call to this endpoint. Then once this is success, I also need to call this get request again. So can basically do build request for get calls dot, again I make a get call to check whether the size is increased by 1. I need to make a get call to employees endpoint, and this one I can also directly use it dot JSON path. Okay, because I'm directly going to asset, I don't need the response. Okay, get list, and then again I want to check the root node, and I want to get the size of it, and I want to assert. Okay, maybe assertions dot assert that. I want to assert whether this is equal to the size value that I have plus 1. Okay, so that, okay, sorry guys, I was still using the assertion dot is equal to size plus 1, size plus 1. Okay, that's it. So I'll do a static import of this. Okay, now this is done. We have made the post call. If you want to do the schema validations, maybe you can also do that. For that, you need to generate the schema, put it in the inside the SRC test resources. For now, just I will ignore this. Okay, we'll go to the update call, and then we will do it. Okay, remaining things. Once you do this, again, I want to make a put call, right? Update call. So for that, I'll do a build request for post calls, and this time I basically want to do a pass a body, but that body is basically body is employee, but I want to update it, right? So if I want to update, this is an immutable object. Okay, I need to build it all again, or basically I can tweak it for now. For time being, I go to the employee class. I'll add a setter method only for this first name for time being. Okay, I don't want to mutate it. Okay, in your case you have to create it all again, but for me I don't have time, so I'll just do pass employee dot uh, you know mm, just a minute. I can tell employee dot set first name, and I can give some default name. Once this is done, I can pass the same employee object here, and then I can make a put call to this particular endpoint, that is slash employees. Okay, and then I need to pass the ID, right? So for the ID, I think we need to get the employee ID. So I can basically do is employee dot get ID. So we can pass this ID here, or can tell ID, and then you can use path parameter. Path param of ID. Guys, I have already explained this all these things to you, so you should be in a position to understand. I'm going a little fast, okay? Like how I normally do the development, okay? So this is basically giving you back the put call. After put call, what I want to do, I want to store that response in an external text file. Okay. Then I have to introduce a new variables. Maybe this is a put response. This is little big test case, but that's okay. Okay, but this is a complete test case. So we have API utils class from where I can store the JSON file as this, and it is asking me for the file path. Maybe I can the file path as put response.txt, and I can pass the response, put response.
Amutan, at line number 35, let's say we create 10 employees. So
Okay.
this first ID of the first employee it will get.
No, it will
right?
get this particular reference.
Okay.
We have the reference here, right?
Yes, yes.
This reference variable is gonna get me the value of this particular employee, whatever we have set. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, this is put response. Now, okay, now we have done this, and then we'll go to the assertion, we'll make the delete call, and get the size and check the size. Okay, very simple. Let's go here. For the delete call, we don't have created, I think. For the delete call, maybe you can use the same get thing. Okay, but that will be a little confusing, but okay. Get calls. And then I call the delete method to the endpoint of employees slash ID. Okay, I need to pass this. Okay, now here I need to add path parameters and then some ID and then the ID that we have generated. So I want to make a delete call to this endpoint. Once this is done, I want to basically get the size out of it. Okay, no, what I want to do, I don't want to do anything. So for now, I leave it like this. Then I need to make a get call. For the get call, we already did this. Okay, let's call this. And then this time I just need to validate whether it is equal to size. That's it. Okay, that's it, guys. So yeah, apart from that, I can add a framework annotation. Maybe this is created by me, and category is basically assignment. And this is basically a list, so I can tell this. Okay, this belongs to assignment category. Okay, let's try to run this test, but this will not be there in the test.xml. Let's go to the test.xml. You cannot individually run a test case. Okay, from here on. Inside post test, no, we have to actually create a new class. Okay, create a new class called as assignment test, and only include this method, that is basically assignment test. Sorry, it should be assignment test. Okay, that's it, guys. So it will run all of these. Maybe if you don't interested in running all these, let's comment it out. Okay, control is okay. I have to comment from the classes. Okay, let's try to run the test in Reusable. Okay, there is an assessment failure. Okay, let's see. So it is sending this. So expected was 187, but was 186. There was some assertion failure because the post call is failed. Maybe okay, maybe it got failed. Maybe it generated an ID that is already there. Maybe let's try to run it and then see what's happening. So now this is possible because in the post call, if it generated an ID that is already existing, the post call would have failed. So the assertion that we called after that post call would have failed. Okay, the assertion that we called here, that is size plus 1, is actually failed in the previous case because the post call is failed. Okay, good. So now let's go to the reports and then check what the reports has. Okay, so this is the request details. Okay, we are only logging the request for the post response. For others, I didn't log it, so I didn't log those information. If you want this, you have to call that response and then you have to log it. Okay, the only way I have logged it, I have logged only the request here. Apart from that, I didn't log any of the information into the reports. So if you want, you have to use external logger dot log response, and then you have to log the post response. Okay, and then it needs a string, right? So post response as string. Okay, that is one. And then for put, again, put response, if you log into the report, you can also do that. So extend logger dot log response, and you can log this put response as well. That as string. The same way, I can log whatever the information you want, and if you try to run the test now, basically works. Again, the schema validation is already, just generate the schema, put it in the schema folders, and then do the assertion. Okay, again, it has generated the same ID. So let's try to run it once again. Okay, now the tests are getting passed. Okay, Okay, now the request details or whatever we are logging, it's all there. Okay, the default name is the one that we send, right, to update the values. Okay, it has generated an ID of 1267. So basically you can play around with this. That's all about rest assured, guys. There is nothing more in rest assured. We have authentication and authorization that's we gonna start from tomorrow's class, but you should be in a position to work with a test case like this and do it. This is a very big test case. If you can do this effectively, you can do any test case. Okay, this is the maximum that people can give it to you. Okay, we have covered uh, get call, post call, put call, delete call, everything. Okay, any other doubt?
Amutan, can we open two subsequent projects at the same time in IntelliJ, like we do in Eclipse?
No, we cannot.
Okay.
You have to open in two different windows. Suppose for now I want to open another thing, so new window. So in this case it will create a new window itself. Okay, you have to play live with it.
Okay. Amutan.
Any other doubts apart from this? Again, most importantly, we can run this test in parallel. Okay, let's go to the test engine.xml, uncomment this. Okay, and here you can increase the thread count. Maybe for now I have 3, 5, and 6 tests. Okay, let's try to check what is happening. Again, I'll also go and I have voluntarily failed something, right? I don't know where I failed. Yeah, the get call, I was failing this. I'll make it as a pass. Now let's try to run the test engine.xml. So all these tests are getting passed, your reports are getting generated, everything is running in parallel. So that's what we want, right? So we have get employee detail. Okay, it's getting only one employee detail. Post test using Pojo, you are logging the request. What is the response? You're getting everything is getting actually logged. Okay, this is what we want. Yeah, so you can play around like this. This is the assignment details test. Okay, whatever. Okay, and then you also have the information based on the category. This is git call. We have 4 tests in git call. Okay, this also includes your data providers. Okay, and then you have smoke test, 2 tests in smoke test category. Everything is good now, right? If you go to the details, okay, maybe the default author Amudan, the name is not formatted well, but yeah, number of tests passed is this. They have developed a 2 tests, all of them got passed, all of these got passed as well. So this is a beautiful report. Okay, you can email this. Okay, anything is possible. Okay, that's all about guys. Any doubts from you guys, you can ask now. Otherwise, any doubts? Is any doubts? Yes or no?
No, Amutan, I'll try to practice what you have, like the approach which you have told today,
Yeah,
because it took more than 2 days for me to like what you have done in 15 minutes.
yeah, just based on the experience. So it's okay, it take a little bit of time, but you need to practice in such a way that you can do this assignment in 10 minutes. Okay, if someone is giving me an assignment to create a framework, do this assignment, I will all take is maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hours. I can create a rest assured framework in 1 hour. I can do some assignments, I can submit the assignment in 1 hour. Okay, so that's how fast you should be. Okay, so yeah, leverage all the IntelliJ features or your Eclipse IDE features. Okay, create a quality framework. Okay, it has to run in parallel, all the stuff, and do all these things. Okay, you can also push this code to Git. We'll see about tomorrow because we have some option from here. We'll push the code to Git. The reason why I am telling is we are going to use some GitHub tokens. Okay, because whatever the code I push from my IntelliJ, it's reaching the GitHub. How it is reaching? Okay, we need to understand how this works, because this is all the authorizations. Okay, how this authorization is happening, what is the GitHub token, different type of authorizations, all those things we'll discuss tomorrow. And we are also going to work with Jira. Okay, in the meantime, if you get a chance to install Jira in your local, you can also do that, because we're going to create defects automatically whenever there is a failure. Okay, in your Selenium test or REST issue test, if there is a failure, we want to create an issue in Jira. We're gonna do that. Okay, so you are going to create a body. You are going to understand the documentation yourself, and I'm gonna be helping you. I'm not going to script the code for you, but I'm gonna just help you. Okay, good. Anything from anyone else before we wrap? So that's all left from my side.
Then,
Yeah.
in Postman earlier, you did request chaining, you know, from
Yeah.
one request. So this assignment is just similar to that.
Yeah, that is the same assignment that we did in Postman, so PY, and the same assignment we are doing here. We are making a get call, we are doing post operation, we are updating it, we are deleting it, we are again checking the size. That's it. But we are doing REST assured with REST assured. With Postman, it's very easy, right? With REST assured, you have to write a little bit of code, but still it is very easy. Okay, so that's why if there is a chance to choose between Postman and REST assured, go for Postman, because I also choose Postman because my efforts, whatever I do in 15 minutes here, I can do it in 2 minutes there. Okay, so choose your tools wisely, but understand all the tools. That's very important.
Yeah, sure. Then what you have demonstrated now, is it a system testing in real time?
Yeah, this is system, because we see actually we are actually sending some request response to some endpoints, right? So basically you can if that particular server is a different system, then we call it as system integration testing. If it is within your system, okay, then we call it as system testing.
So within my system is system testing.
Yeah. Suppose you are making this call to suppose imagine the make my trip making this call to Go Ibibo, okay, or some Indigo Airlines, okay, then this is a system integration testing, right? We are making an calls to different system. We are testing whether two systems are integrated properly, so we call it a system integration testing. Okay, suppose you mark this response, okay, you don't have the the client the server ready, so you mark this response using some Markito or some other marking tools. Then if you are checking the response, you are checking the size of it, all those things, then we call it as a system testing, because there is no external server here. We are creating a mock server and testing it. Okay, so that we call it a system testing.
Okay, then let me ask one more doubt.
Okay.
Yeah. In real time, I mean, in testing, they're asking some scenarios like how will you execute a smoke test suite? Means through TestNG. We can do it, no, through this.
Yeah, see, now we have called the TestNG file, right? So now we are running the TestNG file directly, but running this from the TestNG file is not a good approach, because if you want to do an integration with CI/CD, that means Jenkins. From Jenkins, you cannot directly call a TestNG file. Okay, for that maybe you can integrate with the. So let's say I put a diagram here. Okay, let's see. We have Jenkins here. The ultimate goal is you have to integrate this with Jenkins. Okay, but Jenkins, now we are running our test from testng.xml. Okay, testng.xml. There is no way that you could call a testng.xml from Jenkins. Okay, there are ways, but they are not so so robust. Okay, so there is no direct way to do this. Okay, so all you have to do is you have to call a pom.xml. There is pom.xml we have, right? So in pom.xml there is a plugin called Surefire plugin. You can call that Surefire plugin and then run that from here. You can do this. Okay, maybe it's a very simple task. Maybe since I can do it within a minute, I can also demonstrate. Let's say this is the plugin. Okay, just copy this plugin and you go to the heavy automation framework. Okay, at top you can add this plugin. Okay, here you just mention, suppose if you have multiple XML files, you can add this, but in my case I have just only one XML file, and that XML file is also present in the same directory as my, suppose pom.xml and testng.xml is in same place. So I don't have to give any path. Otherwise you have to give the relative path. Suppose if it is located in src test resources, then you can give /src test /resources, something like this. But in my case, it is located in the root node, so I can give like this. Now, instead of directly calling the testng.xml, I can run it as a maven command. Okay, what I can do is basically open the terminal. So this basically goes to the project location where my project is located, and now I can type mvn a clean basically cleans all your target folder. Okay, target folder is the place where your .class files, that's your compiled files, sits there. Okay, if you have doubts, ask me. I hope you all know what is a target folder, what is compiled files and all. So this will basically clear the old existing files, and then I'll again run the test, which basically do the compilation and run the and calls this Surefire plugin. This Surefire plugin will calls the testng.xml. At the end, the testng.xml will be ran. Okay, let's try to do it and then see whether it is okay. So it is internally calling the Maven Surefire plugin. Okay, this plugin is basically calls your testng.xml and your tests are now running. All the tests got passed, your reports are ready, everything is done. Now you all know how you can call a Maven project, right? The same MV and clean test, whatever we have typed here, you can type it in the Jenkins, okay, and then you can run it. That's very easy. You have to create a Maven job, and then in the Maven it will ask you for the pom.xml path. You can give the XML path, pom.xml path, and then run type clean test. That's it. It'll run the test from Jenkins. Okay, got it right?
Yeah, got it, Amna. And
So
for example, our testng.xml here, we can assume it as smoke, and we can create another testng.xml like
yeah,
regression,
yeah.
like that way.
Yeah, if you want to call all of them, you can add it here. Okay, if you call all of them, suppose you have multiple regression suites, you want to call all of them, you can add it here. Or you can create Maven profiles. There is Maven profile. Sometimes you want to call smoke, sometimes you want to call regression testng.xml. In those cases, you can create Maven profiles, you can learn about it, and then you can call it from Jenkins. Those are all very simple tasks, right? Okay.
Okay. Amna.
I think we are almost
Yeah, we can say that the current suit that we ran is something similar to smoke suit, and this can be answered, no?
yeah.
Okay.
You're running it. You can say that I have integrated this with the Jenkins. You can schedule that to run every day because it's a smoke test. I wanted to test my application is fine every morning, so I run it 8 o'clock every morning, and then I'll get the results in email, or I'll get the notification in my Slack channel because Jenkins has a lot of plugins. You can integrate with Slack. You can get the email results, whatever you want. You can get the results. Okay, in Jenkins.
Okay.
That is completely different topic. That is comes to Jenkins. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Amna.
Okay. Okay, guys, no more questions. I'm tired. Okay, we'll connect tomorrow. Then we will continue with the authorization and authentications. And apart from that, we will try to build a Docker image of this. Because if you closely notice, I haven't used any Excel files because I'm going to Dockerize this whole test. Okay, we'll learn about it tomorrow, day after tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Amna.